in my spreadsheets for work. But I can still hear you.
Hey, that's good. That's really good. Let's see. All right, and just so everybody knows too, we are going to record this meeting. My goal is to post it on our YouTube channel later tonight as well. Sometimes it just takes some time because you have to download it and then upload it to YouTube. I think it's a little funny, but anyhow. So with that, so first of all, thank you so much for everybody for joining us tonight. And just as another reminder, please enter your email address into the chat box. If you're not sure how to get to the chat box, you'll put your cursor towards the bottom of the Zoom screen, find chat, click on that, and it'll open up usually to the right of your screen. But just to introduce ourselves, my name is Cherie. I'm one of the board of directors for Big Valley Beekeepers Guild, which is here as a resource for beekeepers in the Lodi and San Joaquin. We have folks from Calaveras, just this whole area right here. And I don't know if we should call ourselves the San Joaquin region, but if you Google Big Valley, you'll get an idea where we encompass this whole area. And let's see. I also want to introduce, we have our other board of directors that are on the line we have Michael Olson. We have Christina, where is she? I think she's not on video. We have Mark Allen. We have director in waiting, Paul. There's Paul Lockhart. And we also have, there we go. We also have Dan Lawrence, who will be joining us later tonight as well. So thank you everybody for being here. We are going into our 3rd year as a Beekeepers Guild, and we are looking for sponsorships. Zoom meeting fees are $15 each month, and we're also looking to have some guest speakers. So for instance, we have Randy Oliver hopefully coming, I think in June or July. So for the speakers fees, that kind of thing, we definitely are looking for sponsors and would welcome you to email us back channel at bigvalleybeekeepers@gmail.com. And actually, if someone could type that in the chat for me, that would be great. And then, but we meet every 2nd Thursday of the month. Right now we are doing Zoom meetings until we can meet in person. We have folks joining us from a couple of other states. So just a reminder that beekeeping is local, and local can mean local depending if you're near Linden like I am, or if you're up in the Valley Springs area, and if you're up in Placerville or in Sacramento area. It really is dependent on what you have growing and blooming around you. So just keep that in mind, that what works for one person might not work for someone else. But we are here to caretake for our bees and make sure that they're treated well. So along those lines, tonight's topic is all about nukes and packages. It's the time of year where you've already ordered your bees, and now you've got to figure out, okay, what are you going to do when it's time to install them? So we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks and go through kind of some things to consider. Maybe even what is the difference between a nuke and a package, and why would you want to go with one versus another? So we're going to go through that, and then we'll have definitely lots of time for questions. And so we are super glad that you're here with us. So with that, I think Michael's going to share his screen, and then we're going to kind of walk through some of the slides that we have. And oh yes, I have told you we're recording, so we're good. Good. All right.
Okay.
All right, we can see your screen. Oh yeah.
In a while.
Go to slideshow. Oh, it's okay. No, go to slideshow, and then you can click on the preferences, and you can do.
I just want to just my slideshow.
Yeah, there's usually some options.
Try this. There you go.
Okay. Oh, there you go. All right, good deal.
All right. This is a rehash of our presentation from last year, actually from last March. So this goes over what is a nuke of bees. I won't read I won't read through this. I'll just kind of leave it up here. But other directors, other people, and that please feel free to jump in. I don't want to be the only one talking.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So a nuke is basically just a five frame colony, a small colony with a functioning queen, laying queen, a few frames of brood, honey, and pollen. So some nukes in other areas kind of function more like a package where it's you have brood and you have honey, but they're bees that are shaken in there, and the queen is in a cage. I have my best friend in Washington State. He had his nukes in that way, which I don't necessarily agree with, but that's how he got his. I prefer where we get here in California, which is the queen is running around and laying. So pros are obviously that it's just a colony that's ready to go. You just transfer the 5 frames in the same order into a bigger Langstroth, and they're good to go. The cons, I don't totally agree with that. They'll be a little bit risky. I think it actually is a little bit easier than a package. It will obviously have Varroa because most packages now have Varroa at least to some level. And they are more expensive than a package of bees, although looking around for packages, it seems the package price is creeping up to the nuke price for whatever reason. I have no idea, but a nuke should run you 150 through 180 typically. A package I would hope would be like around 100, but there's some packages that they're selling for 175, and I don't quite understand why that is, because with a package you start out with nothing. I mean, if you have drawn comb, if you're making up for losses from the previous winter, that would certainly be a cheaper option. But you know, if given the same price, my personal opinion, I would just go with a nuke because it's a little bit better, a little bit easier to go with. Packages.
So
Go ahead.
one of the questions people ask a lot is which one should I go with? You know what? And a nuke will give you about a month head start because a package, you have a queen that's not laying yet. So once you get it installed, it could be a week before the queen starts laying. After the queen lays, it's another 3 weeks before you get any brood out of it. With a nuke, you've already got a laying queen and you already got brood. So immediately you've got brood being produced. So it's about a month head start with a nuke versus a package.
Yep.
We have a question. I think Michael, you're raising your hand.
I do, yes.
Question?
Thank you so much
All
for
right.
that. So I paid $190 for my nuke through the El Dorado Beekeepers Association, but I'm a member there. So and I went with a nuke for the exact same reason that somebody just said. It gives you about a month ahead of time. But the frames, my question is, I have assurance that the frames are going to fit. They're all standard size, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's a length.
And for the brood, for the brood, they're the larger frames, right? They're not the short frames.
Well, so you have deep, mediums, and I'm not sure what they call the smallest size, but a deep is what, 6 5/8, Mark, or whoever.
No, 9
Yes.
9
3/4, I think.
Okay. And then you have the mediums, or people.
Mediums are 6 5/8.
Okay, that's it. So and then you have a 10 frame box and you have an 8 frame box. So there are some variations, but as long as it's a Langstroth, the width of the hive will fit in. It's just the depth of it, depending. I'm guessing what you probably have for a brood chamber is probably the deep.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So and those nukes that El Dorado sells come from Randy Oliver. So
yes.
Yeah.
So even if my nuke had shorter frames, I could still put them in a deeper box, right? That wouldn't be a problem.
You don't really want to do that because the bees
Okay.
will come in and they'll build comb on the bottoms of your frames.
Right. Then I'll have a hybrid, won't I?
Yeah, it can get kind of messy. And
Okay, well, my club has their Zoom meeting this Saturday. I'll just ask. So thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have another question too from Justin. Justin, do you have your hand raised?
More of a comment, and I know Paul kind of talked about this, but if you have a non-standard hive, it's really difficult for the Nuke. I've been looking into that. I'd rather have a Nuke, but with the Varroa hive, it's much more difficult to install it, especially for someone who hasn't dealt with bees before.
Correct.
Got it. And I think that's the big thing, right? So when you're thinking about getting bees, especially if you've been a beekeeper for a little while, you already have maybe combs or frames built out with comb. You already have a pretty good setup. You're more, you may be more apt to be able to get a package of bees because you won't have to have as much lead time. But that's also why people end up getting, just like what Michael mentioned earlier and Paul, that if you go with a Nuke versus a package, you are going to be ahead. That's an established colony and they're going to hit the ground running. And what's funny is that I think a lot of people that do end up getting Nukes, if they're very successful, they will find that they have to watch them because sometimes we expect them to take a long time to get going. Well, sometimes they really are booming and you have to be ready to maybe even split them at some point if they're really going well. So keep an eye on that. What are I know on your slide, Michael, it talks about the cons. Anybody else have any cons or any preferences between the packages versus the Nukes?
I'm cheap, so I go for packages now.
Right.
But where do you get your packages?
I got the 2 last year from my club, and I just posted what they're selling them for in the chat this year. But now I have enough that I can just do splits off of everything, and so I have queens ordered from that Cohen in place.
Yeah. Is that where you got your packages from Cohen & Sons?
Supposedly they came from Conan's, and they look like the right thing.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
have
because that's where they're selling packages for like around 100 and 104. And that's certainly the cheapest that I found, but everywhere else it's upwards of 145, 170. And so I'm not sure what the justification is for that price. So
I didn't see the pricing on the packages from them. Their queens, I think, are like $32 because I'm only getting like 7 shipped.
Right.
But direct email me offline because they're not without fault, but they're gentle as all get up. So
I mean the queens or what queens are you getting? Just the Italians, or
I got the Cordovans last year.
Right.
They fast build up, but I think they swarm quickly. So
it's funny that you should mention that.
So I actually did a removal from my neighbor's house, and I'm pretty sure they were my ex-swarm. And I went into one hive like in November timeframe, and I had like a lineup of 7 supersedure cells. So I was pretty sure I didn't roll something. So and then I just checked the other hive, which for the queen, and she's not the original. So, but they're the same.
I've found my Cordovans that I have to be very swarmy.
Thank you for that confirmation then.
Yeah.
We have another hand up for Cecil. Cecil, are you there? And then we have Cindy next too.
Yes, I was just going to mention, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I was just going to mention a presentation that was on your Facebook page a few weeks ago. A lady did a thing on very in-depth and scientific on Varroa mite control. And I think it was with Florida State. Remember that, Sherry?
Oh, sorry, I had
Okay.
to unmute myself. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Anyway, a point she made is if you, everything like the gentleman said is going to have Varroa mites. With a package, you can hit them with an oxalic acid the night you install them and start with a completely clean because there's no brood cells. So you will be killing as much as possible of the Varroa mites right in the beginning.
Right.
Which brings
Absolutely.
up a good point. Whoever you're getting your nukes from, you definitely want to ask if they have treated the nukes prior to you getting them. I know Randy Oliver, they do an oxalic acid drip on their nukes before they send them out.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Or that's a great question you want to ask when you're buying. And a lot of no matter where you get your bees, you're going to want to ask those questions, know who you're buying from. I think last year we even heard about folks that were selling nukes like out of the back of their car or something. It was a little crazy. So just know where your bees come from.
Yeah.
Oh, and we have Cindy's hand up. Cindy, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
It took me quite a long time to figure out how to raise my hand. Sorry.
That's
I wanted
okay.
to I'm Cindy. I'm from El Dorado Beekeepers. And I wanted to answer Michael's concern about what kind of frames the nukes come in
yeah.
deep frames. No problem. Yes, and like was said, it's they treat for Varroa before we get them.
So I'm really excited to get my nukes and really excited for my first Zoom on Sunday.
Oh yeah. DW is speaking to us on Sunday. But we've been having a fabulous time with our speakers. That's the only good thing about COVID, is that we've been reaching out to speakers all over the place to say, I'd really like to have this person. So
yes.
And if you have questions about the nukes or the bees, you can get a hold of us through our website, like where you signed up and bought.
Well, and then I guess the question I'd have for this group as part of the presentation, is there a list of questions I should be asking? Because, you don't know what you don't know. But it sounds like the person that is providing our nukes is pretty top notch.
He is top notch. So yeah, I mean, and El Dorado is our sister bee club. So you're in excellent hands, Michael. So
Solid.
No worries there.
Very good.
So a question about packages, and Mark Allen is our resident expert on packages. So I know that one of the things that he always puts down as far as a thing you should ask is you should ask how long the bees have been shaken in the box for, and ideally you want to have 3 days. So I ordered 2 packages from Cohen and Sons. They're going to shake them on Thursday, I believe they said. So and I'm picking them up on Saturday. So I'm probably just going to put them in an appropriate place for a day, and then I will install them in the evening on Sunday, kind of late afternoon. So Mark has some good reasons why you should install your packages later in the day, and I won't speak for him. Mark, could you kind of expand on that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I just realized I don't know where I put my coffee.
Oh no, you lost your Dutch Brothers already?
Like, wait, it's here somewhere.
It's right next to
Probably in my garage behind me.
right next to the schnapps bottle.
Yeah, so packages, I started with packages before, it kind of depends on where you're at, whether you're going to end up using them or not. You can ship packages, but you can't ship nukes. But locally to you, you're probably not going to find packages, you're going to find nukes. So it kind of changes as you go through the country on what you're most likely going to come across. We have both here. So packages, especially if you're doing multiple on the same day, you definitely want to do packages. And I had to learn this the hard way. At the end of the day, you can't just uninstall a package anytime you want. I mean, you can, but you'll find out why later. So that the packages are generally not all from the same hive in a package. Those are bees from many different hives, all poured into a box, and then they scoop it out just like you would, you know, if you came to somebody's house and they had a whole litter of cats and you said you wanted 3 of them, they would just, you know, kind of throw them in a box. There you go. Same sort of idea. So you're getting 3 pounds, and they are going to shake it into a box, and they really are going to weigh it as they go until they get to that 3 pound limit. You could buy them in 2, 3, or 4 pounds generally. The common is 3, and then they're going to have a queen in a cage in that package. If you were to get brand new shook into that box, and then you went home and put them out into your own hive, they are not all from the same colony, so you're going to lose some of them. So the idea is you want them to stay in the box for at least 2 days, let's say 3 though, for them to congregate together. The nice thing about keeping them in the box there too is technically you don't even need to put the queen in there. You could release the queen altogether, but it's smarter to put the queen in her cage into the hive and then do the usual pouring shake of the bees into the box 2-3 days later at the end of the day, so that those bees don't decide to go join somebody else. So if you took a whole bunch of loose bees and drove them, you know, an hour away and dumped them in the middle of your field, they would go join whatever hive they think they can. So it won't be any kind of organized swarm like you think it should be. And so a package of bees is technically an artificial swarm. And so if you want that cohesive swarm mentality, you need to keep them together and then do it at the end of the day so they'll stay together overnight. And you won't have these stories of people saying, my bees left. I've never had that happen to me, but I've heard it's common that their new package of bees the next day is gone. It's usually because they installed it too early in the day and they didn't keep it together long enough. I hope that was cohesive. Felt like I was all over the place.
That was cohesive.
That was great.
So,
So, oh,
no, go ahead.
do we want to? Oh no, do we want to? So we know a lot about packages. Do we want to go to the next to talk about nukes?
I think that was a previous slide, I think.
Oh, did I miss that?
Thought
I was
it
missing
was.
it while I was. Oh, there we go. Good deal. Sorry, I missed it while I was letting people in. Oh, I think we have another. Michael, do you have a question? Or oh, hold on, folks are coming in. Keep going. You can keep going, Michael.
Okay.
Through the slides, yeah.
So this is assuming that you are just starting out and do not have anything. This is kind of just a list of kind of things, kind of minimal what you need. Hive suit or jumpsuit, gloves, hive tool, smoker, and a 10 or 8 frame Langstroth hive. We recommend that you start with that because if you get, especially if you get a nuke, it's going to have frames that fit into a Langstroth deep hive. If you want to start with like or something different like a top bar or something different, it's a little bit more complicated. So we always recommend that if you're starting out, just 10 frame Langstroth hive is the way to go. That's kind of because beekeeping can be frustrating. It's more of there's a learning curve to it, and so we're just trying to make you as successful as possible just starting out. So sources for bee stuff, Man Lake, obviously. Dayton is also online. They're up in Chico, and there's Amazon. There's others. There's the Kelly Bees, which is a part of Man Lake, and there's other little, like my first year I was looking for, I wanted cedar hives, and I found an outfit up in Oregon that sold cedar hives. I've since abandoned that passion because it just causes problems not having the same hardware. But these 3 you can't go wrong, and you can't go wrong with Man Lake.
There are some companies, I think Data also offers wax dipped hive boxes. So that's always an option as well.
Okay. Yep.
We have a couple of couple of questions in the chat box. So looks like Brad was mentioning do not buy from Amazon, and definitely if you're looking for good quality boxes like that kind of thing, I think most people have found that the Amazon products tend to be pretty low quality, and so going with one of the larger bee suppliers like Man Lake or Dayton is probably pretty good. I know that for myself, when I first started out, I purchased frames from Man Lake, and then I purchased frames from Dayton, and you could definitely see a quality difference. So just something to consider. And they're just made a little bit differently. So the recommendation, like Michael said, is to stick with the equipment that you have, or that you start off with. The question here from Justin is, how long do you need to feed a new package once it's installed?
Is that might be coming up in a little bit in the presentation? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it is, but for how long is depends on the bees. So you basically need to feed your nuke and your package possibly until they draw out with comb all the frames that are in the hive. You want all the frames drawn out because that's going to take the most energy of your bees, the most nectar. Once that's done, you would add a second nuke, and then you would still feed until they have all that comb drawn out.
Yeah, so the point of feeding a new hive is that feeding stimulates the wax gland, and you want them building up comb quickly. So if you're feeding, that's going to stimulate their wax glands, and they're going to build up the comb more quickly. If you don't feed, it's going to take longer, and by the end of summer, you may not have a strong hive. So that's the point of feeding. You want to feed. There's a heavy syrup and a light syrup. You want to feed the light syrup to stimulate for the wax building. The heavy stuff, they will probably more than likely store it.
Yeah, I can skip ahead. I think I have a picture. So it's not a top picture, but this is you'll hear Randy Oliver and hear a lot. This is kind of a fancier version of a top feeder lid. It's basically just a lid with a 1.5 inch hole in the middle and a quart mason jar, and I poke 3 small holes in it and then put it right on top. And why I like this a lot versus an interest feeder is because the interest feeder is a little more cumbersome. You definitely have to suit up because it's right at the entrance. The interest feeders can induce robbing behavior, which we get into later. But I like this method because I can just take a square block early in the morning once it's empty. Just go out there early in the morning. The bees don't even come out. You can just kind of slide off the jar as you slide on the block, and then you refill it. So, and then plus you can see from a mile away if you have, if it's full or not, or if it's empty. So, they will take down a lot of this syrup initially. So, as it gets warmer, they will take more of it down so easily, like in 2 or 3 days, you might be having to fill this up again. So
keep an eye on that. We have a question from Cecil. Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple quick ones. This will be the first time for me, and I've watched a lot of videos, read several books. Everybody has a different way of installing packs, but one thing that I see that's different in a lot of ways is some people say put the queen cage vertically with the plug up. Some people say put the queen cage in vertically with the plug down. What's the consensus?
Depends
me,
on the queen cage.
Yeah, for me, it's neither. I
put it sideways, then you don't have an issue. But if you put the plug down, the entrance hole down, the idea is that dead bees or that kind of thing can basically fall into the hole and reduce your ability for the, in other words, block the hole.
Yeah,
so the queen, yeah,
queen can't escape.
So just clip it horizontal to the top middle.
Yeah, I find that's just the easiest.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
and the other question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that there's 3 different kind of queen cages. There's like the JZBZ, which is like a plastic where like the the entrance is like on the side. So you want to have it just have it these like pointed like sideways. You have the California, which is kind of small, and it has the plug. I always put them in with the screen side down, and with it, I guess, horizontal, and then same thing with the 3-hole cage where it has the plug, where basically the screen side is pointed down. If you have some comb, you push it into the comb, but then you have it sideways. But even the method of trying to not have a dead bee block the entrance or block the escape for the queen, I go in there at day 3 just to make sure that she's out, because I have, even installing that properly, I have found a dead bee blocking the entrance where they didn't pull it out and the queen was still inside of there. So 3 days is always a good kind of measure to go in there quickly, and just to make sure. I mean, if you know where your queen cage is, you pull it out, it's empty, then you know that she's in there, and kind of leave them alone for a while.
Is it the worker that are packaged with queen, the queen cage that eat her out, or is it those in the hive?
Attendance. So I mean, you'll have, well, in the they'll have like up to 5 attendants, and sometimes they die in transport or die in the hive. So sometimes they block the way that the queen would get out. So you just want to make sure at day 3 that she's out of that queen cage.
And the other thing I saw in the previous 1 or 2 previous slides, you said install with 5 to 7 frames. I know you don't want a full hive. Do you just put like frames in the middle and a spacer board on either side? Does it matter if there's a spacer board kind of bracketing?
You want to put for a nuke, you want to put the 5 frames from your nuke in the same order and in the middle, and then your empty frames on either side. I know Cherie. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm referring to the packs. I'm referring to packs.
Oh, okay.
Packages.
Yeah. So basically, and there's a video in here somewhere, but basically, I kind of have the way that I did it was I had I pulled some frames out of the center, and I put actually another empty on top, and then you just kind of open up one side, and then you shake the bees in. I mean, obviously before that you want to take the queen out. It's kind of tricky because you have to take out the feeder can, take the queen out, put a little board because now the bees are starting to come out. Put her on a frame, and then what I do is this shake the bees in. You have like 3 frames on one side, 2 on the other. You shake it in the middle, and then after you shake the bees in there, then I put the queen in the middle frame, and then put the rest of the frames in, and then close everything up.
It gets to be a little exciting.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff going on.
There's a lot going on,
and it seems like that the package is kind of having to take out the feeder lid and then get the queen out and then put the little piece of board in there is kind of, it seems like it wasn't planned out very well. I mean, like, it's kind of like, why would you have this where this, so they could, you would think that like the can would be in like a screen where when you pull it out, it's not, bees are not pouring out of the thing, but that's kind of how it is. And at first, I didn't like the bee bus. It's like a plastic hive, but now I prefer those because you you basically can open up the entire one side of that package, and then everybody comes out, versus the wood style, which is you have just the hole in the middle, and then you're shaking the bees where they get out of that center hole. So it's a little bit more awkward with that style. Or you can basically kind of just like destroy the one side, kind of pry the wood off, and then basically dump everybody in. So, but just kind of go ahead.
So when you're installing a pack, you have all 10 frames in your Langstroth, or you have 5 to 7?
Initially, you have 5 to 7. You have like a space where the bees will go in, because if you have all the frames in there, they're just kind of gonna scatter like on the surface of those frames. You want them to kind of go in.
Okay, so it's not like you leave them on the outsides; you leave the gap in the middle.
Yeah, I have a gap. I have space in the middle so that the bees can go in, and then after the bees are shaken in, then I put the frames in. The other thing that I don't do when I'm installing a package is I don't use any smoke whatsoever, because you basically want the bees to know that that's where home is, and smoke will kind of give them a different message. So I don't use any smoke at all installing a package. I don't know if Mark, you want to expand upon that, or anybody else.
I always have a bottle of just actually the light sugar syrup, just in water,
Right.
you know, just in case. I mean, I don't drown them in that, but
Right.
but what I found is that you want to have everything ready, right? Have everything ready to go, have everything ready right there. Some people will even use a medium box, just the box itself, to put over the top to kind of act as a funnel to get the bees in, because you will
Right.
have bees flying a little bit everywhere, and you want them to get to the colony, right? You want them to cluster together. So what the smoke does is it kind of it causes that oh gosh, the pheromones to kind of disperse, and you want the bees to communicate well when you're putting a package in your box in your hive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Puts them in a defensive mode.
Well, what happens is that you get some of the bees, you put them in there, they will, if you've ever seen them, they'll sit on the top board, they'll stick their butts up in the air and fan their wings really fast. And what they're doing is spreading it. They have a gland called the Nasonoff gland, and they're spreading a pheromone that is telling all the other bees, this is home, come, you know, follow me. And when you're using smoke, you're covering up that pheromone. So you don't want that. You want to let them, you know, spread that pheromone, and that's what directs all the bees to go into your hive.
Do you spray them all with sugar water, a light misting of sugar water while they're in the box just before you dump them? I've seen that a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, you
That
can.
Yes.
seems to calm them down.
But a conservative amount of water or sugar water, because I've seen some videos where they're just like drowning them, and basically that's really kind of you kind of want to limit, or you're trying to limit the amount of flight, so that way they kind of stay in a cluster. But you know, but I see videos where they just douse them with way too much sugar syrup spray.
Yeah,
That's
I would
what that
think
is.
a light mist on either side, and that's about all you need.
Yeah. Yep.
It also
Okay.
promotes grooming. They'll groom each other and clean that syrup off.
Okay, thank you.
I can share some pictures if you'd like.
Yeah.
How do
Oh
I
yeah,
share
go for
screen?
it.
All right.
Let's see, there you go.
By the way, in the comments, I put a picture. There's what I've started using for introducing queens. It's a queen introduction frame, and you take your little 3-hole queen cage, you put it in there. It's got a little hole on the side, and it's got like a wide open screen area, and you don't have to worry about whether or not your queen's going to escape or, you know, get stuck in there, because she's free to roam in that area. And I just feel like it gives more space for her to wander and spread that queen pheromone, and they adjust to the new queen much more quickly.
All right.
I've actually used it to solve or resolve a laying worker as well.
I got a couple of those from the Sacramento beekeeping supply store.
Yeah,
And they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're really handy to have. And I know it's an extra step, but and I actually will use blue tape to hold the wooden queen cage in place. So yeah, that's a very well worth the tool. Some things in beekeeping you never use. Other things like that you tend to use. All right, Mark. Looks like you got some pictures.
Right, I got a bunch of weird pictures here, all random, right? And the ones I want to use are tiny, but we'll have to use them. I don't have my main picture slides here, but after you spray the package, right? Sorry, I'm using these tiny pictures. So if you have a spray bottle and you make like a really weak solution of syrup, just like Michael was talking about, it doesn't have to be a heavy syrup. You're not trying to feed them. You're just trying to get them a little sticky. The heavier you make it, the harder it is to spray anyway. So you're just trying to get them busy, you know, just like if I walked up to you and sprayed you with sugar syrup, I'm pretty sure you'd stop what you're doing. and now try to figure out what am I going to do to get all this syrup off. And so that kind of keeps that cohesive busyness going. And so, yeah, when you're doing a package, you don't use smoke because it really won't fix anything. It won't get you to a point. There's no reason to use it. So, you don't have to do this. It's like little steps that make it easier, right? This is one of those steps that make it easier, especially if it's warm that day. Cold, it makes everything easier as far as this whole process. But if it's a hot day for whatever reason, then this is a good idea. Like if you're getting packages in May, we're probably warm by then where we are. And even though you're doing it at the end of the day, we can still be quite warm. So this is a good thing to do. And over here, when you pull out the can, let's say you're using the wooden cage, right? And you pull out the little feeding can, they have, no matter what type, they have some sort of little feeding can device, some sort of stored syrup for them to stay together in that package, because again, they're going to be in there for more, intended to be in there for more than just a day or two. And there's one of them. There's the other one. All right. Like I said, tiny picture. When you're pulling out that can, usually there's a little thing on the top. You pry that off. The queen is like right, I don't know. Can you see my cursor when I'm doing this? When I'm moving it around?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So right in here, there'll be a slit in the box. In there, actually, you might see a little piece of metal. That's actually the queen cage being hung from the top. So you'll pull out the can, and then you'll move this little, I'm using my fingers, it doesn't work. You'll move this over, either unwind it or just move it over, and you'll see now you have a queen cage in your hand with usually a whole bunch of bees sticking to it. Put that aside, and then you can put the can back in, or you can just put the piece of wood or whatever over the top, set it aside. You're going to take that queen cage and you're going to attach it here. If you have an old frame, easy, then you can just push it into the wax. But most people that are doing packages don't. They have brand new frames. And there are ways of either using tape or suspending it or just trying to get it to stick between. But you want to get that queen cage to suspend itself on the top. You don't want to put the queen cage at the bottom of the hive. That's not a good idea. You definitely want to attach it to the top. And then there's another picture. I have to get out of that. Then once you get to this stage, this is the pouring stage. And I was hoping to have a video for everybody, but I have just got back from Fresno just about 20 minutes ago. So I haven't been able to be at home at the hives to make a mock video for everybody. But it's real simple. Once you get this part, this is it just pours in. So you shake the bees or pound the side of the wooden box, and they will stop being this, a bunch of bees stuck to the side and more like water, and they'll pour right in. So as long as you shake and that kind of thing. And, new people, you can always tell because they're afraid to do everything, right? Like that they're more rambunctious and more stable than you think they are. Like you could pour it from your waist onto the ground. It's not going to hurt them. They all have wings. If they get to a certain point, they will fly. So you're just pouring this into that space between the two, and they'll look like a pile of bees inside. You try to get as much as you can out of the cage, and then I put the cage usually in front of the hive. And then you take the two frames that you have taken out and put them back in slowly. And you basically just let gravity do its job, and you'll watch the bees moving out of the way inside, and those frames will slowly drop down. So you don't want to, or you're going to smash bees. So you just let them go down, and then you can put the top back on. And any bees that are left over, maybe in that package, you can shake in front of the hive at the entrance, or just leave them. They should come out. I like to take that package far away when I'm done, though. I don't like that package hanging around. So you're done now. Hopefully you have some sort of feeder. This one, I think they're putting the feeder on. Yeah, this one looks like they took the little feed can and stuck it on one of the entrance feeders, which is different. But depending on which way you're going to feed them, it's a good idea with a package because they only are an artificial swarm. they don't really have much in the way of food. And especially if it's a new colony, a new hive, they don't have the wax. So that wax is going to take a lot of energy to make. And so if you can supply at least a gallon for them, and whether or not that's a gallon at a quart of time, but you're going to want to give them food unless you want to slow down this whole process. Because if you don't, they're going to only have a certain amount of bees to go out and get everything they need. And until they have more of what they need, the queen won't be able to lay any eggs. So you want to make that process a little easier for them by giving them sugar syrup.
And
So,
you're also going to want to supply pollen, because pollen's how they create the royal jelly. So you're going to want a good quality pollen patty as well.
So Marcus, so if you're like me and you're making up for losses and you have a full 10 frames of drawn comb and you're installing a package, obviously you won't see any newbies for about 20 days, but like what is the buildup going to be like? I mean, like, because she's going to have 20 days to basically go all around those 10 frames of open comb and lay. I mean, is it going to just be explosive? Is it going to catch up with that nuke? Or
It's going to be a long time before it catches up with that nuke.
really?
Because first they got to make let's pretend you have brand new comb, and we'll start from there. Brand new comb, it's going to take a while for them to get even just a couple of frames.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm saying for me, I'm going to have a full 10 frames of drawn comb.
Yeah, so you're going to be much faster, but there's two things that are going to happen. First, they're going to have to go out. I mean, if you look at a 3-pound package of bees, it looks like a ton of bees in that package.
Right.
You pour it in, it looks like a ton of bees. Come back later, come back the next day, you'll notice there's, like, if you're lucky, 2 frames of bees in there. It's once they situate themselves, that's not a lot of bees.
Right.
There's at most 10,000 bees, and it sounds like a lot, but that's not really a lot. So it's just a seed that starts out.
Okay.
With yours, they'll at least be able to start storing whatever you give them and whatever they go out to get, and not so much spending it all on building. So they should be able to quickly start going. However, it doesn't, there's only so many bees to incubate all the eggs.
Gotcha.
And they still are going to have to clean up that comb. It's going to take a few days.
Right. Okay.
You can lay all those bees. It's still going to be, 21 days, technically. But then in about that 1 month period, you're going to see a drop in population.
Right.
Because all the old bees that are going to start dying, and you're going to have that month in between. So it's going to go up and drop, and then it's going to make its climb. Or the package will just kind of climb. So as far as that's concerned, it gives you at least a month, if not more, with a nuke. Also, a nuke is giving you more than just the bees that are hanging on them.
Right.
It's giving you all the bees that are coming out. So I'd say it's probably more bees overall than, well, depending on where you get your nukes from.
Yeah.
I've seen some pretty pathetic nukes. So
Yep.
that's generally what goes on now. If you go on, message boards or Facebook from now until the middle of the year, is everyone complaining about some nuke provider they got it from that was less than par. Yeah.
Now, in Justin's case, they're doing a warehive, which means you're just going to have top bars and no foundation. So when you pour all the bees in there, are they just going to?
Generally, I mean, let's say it's a top bar hive and make it simple.
Yeah.
In a top bar hive, you to keep them inside, they generally will consider the space inside to be, of optimal, but it's even better if you have that little wax, like you rub a little bit of beeswax on the actual triangular frame,
right,
in a top bar. That's enough for them to say, hey, this is good. And they're going to want to congregate somewhere anyway.
Like a starter strip kind of.
Yeah. So instead of, like, when we do starter strips, we actually have a little bit of comb, right? And with a top bar, their starter is not a flat piece of wood, but cut so that it's a triangle hanging off like this.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Yeah. So that they actually physically rub with wax. So if you just rubbed it with wax, that's enough for them to go, oh, okay, right here. And whether it's a package or an actual swarm, they are holding a little bit of syrup in their stomachs. They will immediately put all that to work.
Mhm.
Right. And the first thing they're going to do is start to make comb. It's like when you find a swarm and the swarm is there another extra day, and they'll start building comb right where they're at if they don't take off and go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's
In the
always
tree.
amazing. It's always amazing to see how much comb they actually do build. Oh, I mean, so that's the other thing. When you install bees, you don't want to open up the next day and look at them, and then open up the next day and look at them, and you want to give it some time for them to settle in. I'd say,
Especially a package.
yeah,
Packages are pissy, at least in my experience. And when I installed a Saskatraz package, which are supposed to be nice, mellow Canadian bees, I had two chase me off. I had one that buried itself in like the back of my head, and another one that stung me in the hand. And I was just looking at the entrance like I do with all my hives. So for these packages I'm gonna probably leave it alone for a week.
mhm.
At
Canadian
least,
bees,
yeah.
eh?
Canadian bees, they're
Canadian
supposed to
bees,
be all
eh?
nice.
Canadian bees.
They're supposed to be nice, eh?
Take off,
Nice.
eh?
Right, right.
You hoser.
Yeah,
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 like-
hoser.
And drink
You
moosehead
know,
beer and
Yeah.
Oh no.
There's a
Donuts.
mouse in my
Donuts.
beer, eh?
Donuts and a beer.
Yeah.
Hey,
If
I
you
want
haven't
to
seen
make
it, there's
sure
a movie
because
called Strange Brew, and
oh gosh.
you gotta
No,
see
so I
it.
want to earlier we got the question of what kinds of things should you ask if you are buying a nuke or a package. Well, I guess maybe not so much a package, but maybe. So what are maybe the top 5 questions you should ask the person that you're purchasing your package or nuke from? I know we talked earlier about maybe when were they put together if it was a package, right?
So
So when were
packages,
they?
yeah, packages are generally from a bigger beekeeper, right? You could be buying a nuke from somebody who has 3 nukes to sell that whole year. But a package, that's a lot more involved. It's not something you simply are going to throw together packages because it's a pain. There's a reason why I don't sell packages, right? I put together a few for a friend last year, and it's just a pain. So, but a package guy, so when you are buying one, like let's say Conan's a very good package bee supplier. I like them. That's what these are here, or the other ones I've bought in the past, and they will probably give you a sheet that gives you a list of things that you should be thinking about to the new person. But one thing they should tell you is when they shook it, in other words, they're going to shake it into this box and then put the queen and all that kind of stuff and then close it up. They should tell you when that was done. That way, because if you wait too long, you have too many dead bees in the bottom of your package. You wait like we talked earlier, if you do it too early, then you might have some of those bees fly away. And then you spend an awful lot of money to just add bees to the atmosphere. And so you should ask those kind of questions. Anything else you can think about when you're there, they should be able to answer for you. If you're talking a nuke, which I don't have any pictures for a nuke, sorry. But if you're talking about a nuke, then those kind of questions that you should ask, you should at least know what you're getting. Like when I sell nukes to folks, I tell them what it is I think you should be getting, which is at least 3 frames of brood at the bare minimum, with the bees on them, obviously, with the bees on them, and an actual queen from this year. So if you're not getting this year's brand new queen, they should be telling you that, and you should probably have some sort of discount. Some people do buy last year's queen, right? It should be cheaper mostly. But either way, it shouldn't be one that's in a cage sitting there. If you're opening up your nuke and there's a caged queen there, they should have told you that, what you're getting ahead of time. Maybe that was on purpose, or maybe that was because they just made a queen and they threw it in there. With a nuke, the idea is that you have one that's laying, and you already know it's laying, and the brood that you're seeing is from that queen. and not just brood they threw in there right there, you know? So that's why a nuke is ahead of the game. It's not just that you have all the bits, it's that those bits are all one cohesive unit. And so that's 5 frames, 3 of them should be brood at least. All 5 shouldn't be brood, that's not normal. I mean, that means that you really don't have any food either for those bees. So it should be at least 3, but at the most 4. And so with 3 frames of brood, the bees, the queen is on them, the queen is out there walking with them, the queen is laying. And the other 2 should be either honey, wet nectar, but stored in the comb, or pollen. I don't really think it's a great idea to buy a nuke and then open up and find out there's a brand new frame of foundation in there. That's personally, I don't think that you're getting your money's worth.
Agreed.
I think then you're getting 4 frames instead of 5. So there you go.
We haven't talked about marked versus unmarked queens yet. So if you're just starting out, it's not a bad idea to whoever you're buying the bees from, getting the bees from, you can ask them to mark the queens for you. Mark the queen, they just put a little colored dot on their back, basically. This year the color is white, so they're color coded. So a queen produced this year in 2021, it will have a white dot. Queens from last year, I believe, were green. I believe, or was it blue? Blue. Was it blue?
Blue.
And then queens from the previous year, I believe, were green.
Red.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
wait.
yeah. There's
Sounds right.
red,
I think it was
green,
red.
blue.
Yeah,
yellow.
red, blue, white, and then green. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Right.
No, there's
Yeah.
yellow in there too.
I always have to look it up.
But your nukes that you get should have 2021 queens. If you have a nuke that has a 2020 queen, they should sell it to you at a cheaper price, and they should tell you that up front. But I haven't seen that before. I know that when I did splits last year, I did sell a previous year queen, but that was made apparent up front, and I sold the nuke for cheaper. So.
And just something to add about the marked queens too. Don't expect them to be marked forever, because what will happen is that the other bees will start to rub on them, and you'll go in there thinking that you're looking for a bee with a blue dot, and you won't find one. So get really good, practice looking for for queens. And I think there's even like a game online where you can actually go and they'll do different pictures of frames and you have to find the queen. So get.
I think next week, I think that in the Sacramento group, they are, and I see Debbie Gable's on, she can confirm this. The girl that wrote, there's a book called Queen Spotting, and the girl that wrote that book is going to be presenting at the Sacramento club meeting next week.
Yes, Hillary, and I always I forget her last name.
Hillary.
Debbie's on. Debbie.
Girl next door, honey, but I forget her last name.
Yeah.
Yep. And please attend. You're all welcome. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is it Hillary Kearney? Is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I personally do not. I try not to mark my queens. I prefer not to mark them because I feel like it makes me lazy. You need to train yourself to find the queens. It gets too easy. When you're used to always looking for a marked queen, the moment you get a swarm or something and you don't have a marked queen, you don't, it's like your brain hasn't been exercised to really know how to spot that queen. So.
And there's definitely argument for that. And there's also, I choose to mark mine because I have had occasion where I go in there and look for my marked queen and she's not in there and there's an unmarked queen in there. So I know that they either swarmed or supersedered. And I mean, in the case of somebody else in the club, we marked their queen for her and we did an inspection last week and I thought for sure that they would have replaced the queen. It's the same queen that I marked 2 years ago. So, but yeah, the marking will eventually rub off, not completely, but I like to do it only because it kind of makes things faster, but also I know if she's been replaced.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
There's your queen colors.
There's our queen colors. Oh,
This year it should be white. This year is the best year because you can actually see what, you can actually find it
Mhm.
quicker.
And last year's color, the blue, there were different shades of blue, and some of them were harder to recognize than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go online, there's whole conversations about what to use to bark your queen. What seemed to be the best was a Tesla's or a Tester's modeling paint. That comes in a pan, and it says it lasts the longest. They do eventually rub it off, but it seems to last the longest out of all of them.
I think we have a question from Michael. Michael, are you available?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh,
I'm here.
oh, I think we hear a lot of static.
Try this. Is that better? Better?
No, it sounds worse.
Maybe if you type your question in the chat, then we'll read it.
How's that?
Oh, there we go. That's better. Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Type it.
So my question is, I'm getting a nuke. I presume that the nuke kind of comes as a like a mini hive. Is there a queen cage?
No, it's the queen is out running around laying eggs, and I think they use it's the easy nuke, I want to say, or the pro nuke. It's a plastic nuke. It's not that.
Yeah, I didn't have a picture of the plastic nuke because
I have a picture of it over here, but Cindy would know. Cindy, do you know if Eric Oliver is using the pro nuke, the plastic nukes?
Yeah, it's the same boxes as last year.
Okay.
And by the time that we get them, they've been living together as a colony for about a month.
Right. So
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So when I got nukes from Eric, they were in the cardboard. It wasn't like this. It was a little bit different. But
the one that was in the picture that was shown before, that Jester nuke. That's kind of a corrugated plasticky thing.
Easy nuke.
So on that one, I didn't want to install mine the first day. So I just put it out there and needed to open up the entrance, and it was tricky. It was embedded. I had to use a little screwdriver to get the thing up and figure it out. But he uses different nukes now where you just lift up the door to let him out if you're going to wait a day. But
bear with me as I Google.
Yeah,
those boxes are great to hang on to too, because if you do have to catch a swarm later on, oh my gosh, they are super handy for that. In fact, I will actually keep one in my car with some frames in it.
Pro nuke, not pro nuke.
The whole point of a caged queen is when they do that, they introduce the queen to the bees that they haven't been together. They take a queen, put it in with all these bees, and it takes some time for them to accept her.
There you go.
That's what I assumed. And I also assume that there are plenty of videos that show you the mechanics of adding the nuke to your hive. I assume that's readily available.
In beekeeping, Michael, the taking the frames from a nuke to a 10-frame length trough is going to be the easiest thing you do as a beekeeper.
Okay, solid.
And just
open the box, take the frame out.
Yep. One at a time and keep them in the same order.
Put it in the new hive.
It was still scary the first time.
It is scary.
When we have our pickup day for nukes, and packages, we try to do demonstrations, at least a couple of them during the day, so people can see.
That would be great. Now, do you use a smoker on a nuke? I heard that you don't do it on the package. It makes perfect sense. No smoker on the nuke.
But you probably don't need to. There's only a little bit of bees comparatively.
Okay. Well, you don't spray sugar. The sugar solution either.
No. Nope.
That's the same deal. When you use smoke, you're covering that pheromone, that Nasonoff pheromone.
Gotcha. Okay, makes perfect sense. Thank you so much. I'm sorry my microphone was doing that.
Yeah.
Now,
So
in this
so
picture I have here, I wouldn't make only the space I need. I would actually make a heck of a lot more space than that. So I would have those extra 2 frames on those new frames. I would take those 2 out too, because you want room. You don't want to have to squeeze it in there. You want in room. So, I'll take it out probably 2 frames at a time, but maybe it makes more sense to do it 1 frame at a time.
Here's a question. Once you, so if you go ahead and move your nuke into, your standard box, are you, cause that's, what, 4 or 5 frames, are you putting it in there with another couple of, what am I trying to say? The remainder of the frames that they're going to build out, do you put them in there with all the rest of them, or do you just put 2 more frames, empty frames in at a time?
I wasn't
make
following.
sense?
I apologize.
Sorry, I know I wasn't asking very well. Okay, so here we have in your picture, you have the deep box with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames that are new frames, right? They're not
Mhm.
built out. How many of those frames will you leave in the box with the new frames that you've just transferred over?
So I'll take out those 2 frames there on the right, or any of the 2 frames, just to make more room. Then I'll put all 5 from the nuke. I'll shake the remainder of what's clinging to the box into the hive. And then I will put back the 2 frames. So it's 10 frames total.
Got it.
Sometimes what you run into is if you're trying to hang the queen cage in between frames, you may have to take the 10th frame out, one of the frames out, to give you more space, because you're not going to be able to put wherever, if you're hanging the queen, you may not be able to push those 2 frames completely together. So
yeah, if you were doing a queen replacement or you're doing a package, then that would make sense. But usually,
right.
Yeah. In the nukes, they usually have the queen on one of the frames. So the only difference with I guess we should mention that. The only difference with a nuke is to keep your eyeball on where that queen is. So as you take out the first frame here, right, and you move it to here, see if it's on the frame. And then, as you go. If you know where the queen is, you can't do harm to the queen.
Sometimes
you don't know where she is.
And sometimes you won't see the queen as a new beekeeper, but that's the common thing with new beekeepers is they will kill the queen when they're moving frames in, because they will roll her basically. So what you want to do is Mark's right. It's probably best to have all the frames out, and then the first one's going to be the most difficult to get out, but you want to just go as slowly as you possibly can, and then put that first one in there. And then when you do your second one, pull the second one away from the third to give you room, and then put it in next to the one that you just put in there, and slowly put it together. Just as slow as you can, because you want to give the queen enough time to get out of the way, just in case there's enough room. And then you keep doing it until you have all 5 frames in the box, and then you add the empty frames. And to answer Dave Bars's question, you don't want a checkerboard where you have an empty frame and then a frame of brood and an empty frame, because you don't want to separate the brood nest in your nuke. You want to keep all the brood together, and then the bees will just expand out. And the other point that I want to make real quick is not clear here in the picture, but I guess that that hole is the entrance to the nuke. When you do this, you want to basically match it up with the Langstroth, where the entrance of the nuke is aligned with the entrance of your Langstroths. That way you want to have everything exactly as it is in the nuke.
And have the frames go in the exact same order.
Correct.
Yeah, you're better off.
Correct.
Later, when they start building out, then you can start moving frames in where you want them. But the checkerboard idea, where you got 1 and then 1 and 1 and 1, doesn't really speed up the process. It feels like it does. It doesn't really speed up the process of them growing outward, especially if there's any kind of cool weather coming, because they've got to then abandon brood to go heat up the ones that they can. So especially in the cold weather, you want them to keep them together. And I mean cold weather, even just for an hour. So nighttime temps. So you don't really want to checkerboard until we're where we are anyway. Until we have those, you know, like 80-degree nights and 105-degree days, then maybe you can think about checkerboarding and fun things like that.
I see your question, Brad. I won't get into the screen bottom boards.
I don't like them.
Some people like them, some people don't.
I love them.
A lot with beekeeping. Sheree happens to love them.
I have a
I
couple.
don't use them. So there are pros and cons to everything, but especially for the new beekeepers is like, you know, just try and keep it simple. And I don't exercise a strong opinion either way. So
I have to say though, when it comes to the bottom boards, invest in a good bottom board. Even the ones that I've gotten from Man Lake, unfortunately, are kind of cheap. And the best ones I've ever bought are actually by Country Rubes up in, I think, Grass Valley. And they even come with a cool bottom that you can slide in on top of the, or not on top of the screen, but just underneath the screen. But they are sturdy. They will last forever. So take the time, invest into whatever bottom boards you end up getting. For me, I like the screens because where my hives are, they're always bearding. It's just so hot. But I really like I like the ventilation, but I also like the ability to be able to pull out the board and look at it to give me an idea of where the colony is and what it's doing. So that's just my plug for for the bottom boards.
For bottom boards. Yeah, and you can make bottom boards out of things too later on. I always tell anybody who's starting anything. I mean, if I was going to get into basket weaving, I would learn how to do basket weaving the way they've done it for a long time before I decide to make my own way of basket weaving, right? And it's the same if I was going to get into model painting or anything else, right? So it might be best to get the established, maybe even built equipment first for at least one hive. Get the standard of everything, and then you can start playing around with hive designs that, you know, look like the letter S or are made out of something strange, and you know, or build it yourself. So because you can get to a point and build it yourself. I only put this one up just to be a pain in the butt that you can have palletize everything. So but I mean, you can make it out of it. I think that the smartest thing for our area, because we do not get, just for the people that are out of state, we don't get snow. Snow is not normal. Maybe it is up Cherie's way or Michael's way. Maybe a little bit of snow. No, none.
Nope.
In the valley, we never ever get snow. We do get ice and things like that.
Cindy gets snow.
That is a migratory top. You get a really nice piece of external plywood. You put a little bit of hardware to it, and boom. And you'll see as you're driving around the almonds right now, a lot of the hives just have a piece of plywood. That's it. Looks like that. Doesn't even have the hardware on it. So you can get away with tops. Bottoms, though, you kind of want something a little stronger, especially because if you're you know, just using actual bottom boards, most likely are touching the ground in some fashion or another. So they need to be a little bit more strength than just putting something slapped together.
So I'm taking a look at your tractor. I'm taking a look at the time. We're just at about 7:45. So I think what we should probably do is just see if there's any last minute questions. And then you're welcome to stay on for a little bit longer of those that can. Just a reminder though, really quickly, if you haven't already, please, you guys probably all know what I'm going to say. Please put your email address in the chat box or send it to us private message. We had a couple people join us about halfway through. So please do that, because then we can track your attendance and we can send you an email about our next meeting. That'll be on, does anybody have the date? I need to look. Our next meeting date is going to be on March 11th. So we'll be sending out the Zoom meeting link, as well as posting it on our private group and on our Facebook page. So And again, too, if you're interested in sponsoring a months of Zoom meetings, please email us back channel. Special thanks because both Debbie and Brad have actually, and Michael have already sponsored the next couple of meetings coming up as well, which is great. So, so along those lines,
They're making me look bad. So
yeah.
I will sponsor. I'll sponsor 2 meetings.
Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Mark, on that one picture where it has the medium frame and then the comb underneath it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good example. Michael, if you put a medium frame in a deep and you wait it long enough, that's kind of what you'll get. So the bees will just.
And you'll forget that you put the medium in there.
Yeah. So
you'll forget to put that you put mediums in there, or you're moving something around, and then you'll pull, and then it'll keep coming, and you go, oh, yeah, okay, and that's what.
Is that more likely to be drone comb though, or no? I guess it just depends on the colony.
In the spring,
not all what you would think so.
That looks like a shallow.
That's actually a medium. It's just the weirdness of the picture. Shallows are, boy, they are. I was happy when those disappeared. Shallow used to be the norm to see for honey, and when you say shallow, they really are shallow. Like they're less than the width of your hand of actual comb. So most of it is the structure. You know, most of it's wood and frame, and then there's this teeny tiny amount of space for comb. They're great in the fact that they fill them up quick. So instead of waiting for it to get capped, it's capped so quick that you can pull them. Shallows are still around for comb honey, chunk or comb honey. So whether it's in a box or in those Ross rounds, right? That's a shallow.
So I gotta say that if I were to start all over again, I would go completely with mediums from the ground up, just one single piece of wood. And I'm trying to transition to that now. And sell off the other stuff. So it's you're talking 40 pounds versus 80 pounds, you know?
Yeah. And I'm kind of the other way. I want to go completely deep just to have all one thing. But
I see a trade working out.
Yeah. The mediums are great though. They really are, because again, it's the same reason why I just said for the shallows, that they fill up the honey, then they might not fill up the honey in a deep, you know. You might have all these half filled frames as opposed to a medium. They do it so quickly. Some of our honey flows are really short. So, you know, if you wait around for them to fill it up, they're going to fill it up with a different kind of honey, and you'll have light on top and dark on the bottom. And one of them tastes good and the other one doesn't. So that kind of thing.
That's why you blend it all together.
Yeah. Blend it together and you call it wildflower. Yeah.
Now somebody commented about drones during the spring, because the bees go throughout winter with no drones. So in spring they're like, when they start producing drones, that's kind of when you know that swarm season's coming up, because you need the drones in order for the queens to mate once they do swarm. And they will start sticking that drone brood anywhere they can put it, in between frames. So you'll go to pull your boxes apart, and it'll be the top box and the bottom box will be glued together with the drone brood.
And I was looking at this picture the other day too. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I taking that picture. When you're pulling things apart, like drone, can you see that okay?
Oh yes.
That's and you start seeing mites pop out. That doesn't mean you have a humongous amount. You know, like one of the old ways of looking is to pull drone to try to determine how much mite you have. It's not super indicative of whether
it's not
you have,
accurate.
Yeah, there is the word, accurate. But if you do have one, now you know, oh boy, you guys should be doing counts. Because I've pulled one out and I counted one time, I had 12 mites come from a single drone brood cell, which
Wow.
according to
that's-
literature isn't
yeah.
supposed to happen, but it does.
So to correlate that, I had like 2 or 3 mites come out of some drone cells, and then when I did the alcohol wash test, I was at like 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they prefer the drones, you know. So earlier we mentioned this. I'm sorry, I think we mentioned it when we were doing our little hour talk. So this is formic acid, and if you really look in there, there's a ton of dead mites when I looked in. And so those are just 2 frames here hanging over, have dropped that much mite in just a couple of inches onto this pad, right? So what you thought, oh, it's not that bad, I'll throw these in, and the formic really knocks them down big time. So
Wow.
I was going to show something. Oh, we were going to show this too, because there was a question on, that's the JZBZ that Michael was talking about. And that's the California cage. It's another common one we have. They call it the California cage. So there won't be attendance in this one. It's smaller. This is the one where maybe you're getting 10 queens at a time. And they'll put it in a battery box, is what it's called, a little box that holds them all. And they pour the bees on the outside. So the bees will be hanging onto the cages, and they feed them that way. This is the common, well, oops. I thought I had it right here. I guess I don't. Sorry, give me a second. I'm looking right at it, but that drives me nuts. Right there. Queen in a tent. So this is the 3-hole cage. There's a hole here, a hole here, and a hole here. They take a block of wood and they get a drill press and they make 3 holes. And then there's a hole here and a hole here. So this is all candy smashed in there, and they will eat their way through here to get to these. So there'll be, this only has 3, but usually there's about 5 attendants in with the queen. And this is your common, you're going to buy 1 to 3, 1 to 5 queens from someone. This is what's going to come in the mail, or this is what you're going to pick up. Boy, they're a pain to put together. I can tell you from putting together a couple hundred of these. They're a pain. So this is why usually if you can get and sell to commercial guys, it's much easier. You just make up the little things. These you have to put together as needed. And so because you have to put all that in there and then staple it together as opposed to just have them ready. So those are your 3 different kinds. There's a hair roller cage, but I don't think you're going to see that much as deal.
Good deal. Thank you. All right, I'm looking. Any other questions? I don't see anything else that's popped in the chat.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Bill.
I bought my first 2 hives. I think it was like last weekend or the weekend before. So I'm waiting on my nukes to come in. But I noticed on my top board, there's a notch that either goes up or down. When I put it together, does it go up or does it go down? The notch.
Typically
That's a
it goes
good-
up. It's the notch on the inner cover. If you live in colder areas, I know that they will have that as like an upper entrance. But I've typically just, I mean, here in California, seen them up where they're not utilized as a top entrance. But in colder areas where you get snow and if they could potentially block the entrance, they have that as an alternate entrance.
Okay. Yeah, Georgia, we don't worry about too much about the snow either, but
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure which way it went or what it was used for.
Yeah. And I know that if you use it for an entrance, you have to kind of have your hive cover kind of back a little bit. So they can find it. But yeah, but I haven't, at least I don't use them. We don't use them here.
Okay.
So this goes up.
Hey, Mark, will you add this, the construction plans for the hives? Would you add that to the private group?
Sure,
Under
I'm trying
files?
to remember what, I think it was just B Source. I can find the links too. B Source was the old
Yeah,
one
that's
from
kinda cool.
10 years ago that you can get all the dimensions for everything.
Wow.
And they were kind of like the standard Everyone went, okay, if you want to make them yourself, here you go, go to it. I'll put this up on our website thing.
Yeah, the tricky thing is if you want to make the nice handholds that you see on beehives. I haven't seen a lot of methods that make them look nice, but people try. There's like only a few methods that I've seen that the handholds look halfway decent.
Ah,
Yeah, just take a 1 inch by 3/4 inch piece of wood, cut it and glue it and drill it.
Yeah.
Or screw it on and it's just as good.
Yeah, cleats are much
In
easier.
fact, it's probably better because it's easier to, yeah.
You just get that 1x2 and glue it, staple it, glue it, nail it, however you want to do.
Yep.
The glue is the key.
so I want to challenge everybody, everyone that's ordered bees. Obviously, it might be some time still since before they can be picked up, but please videotape yourselves or take pictures of your bees and you're installing them, and definitely share them on the private Facebook group. I think that would be great. And that way we can kind of share with each other what our different experiences are. And I recommend, it's always hard because when you're in the middle of installing bees, you're not thinking necessarily to take pictures. So if you have a beekeeping buddy, have them there, set up the video camera. But it would be great to see how everybody's doing with their installations once they get their bees. So, all right.
I have no idea
Well,
how to
with
make this
that-
stop sharing.
Oh yeah. Well, go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say, I don't know how to, I'm sure you know how to stop this.
I think just click the green button again, or at the top where it says stop share.
Oh yeah, right there. Stop
There
sharing.
you go.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. And again, we're gonna put, let's see, I'm gonna try and get this recording up tonight. And then we'll share the link on the Facebook page as well. So, and then if you're looking for a beekeeping buddy, or if you are, if you're willing to be a beekeeping buddy, definitely post that on the page as well. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if anybody has questions beyond, after this, feel free to post questions on the Facebook page because there's always somebody there willing to answer.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Hey.
Good night.
Bye.